What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I'm on a roll with these album reviews, man. I'm really pumping these out in a much quicker rate than I thought I would. This week, we're taking a look at another big underground heavy metal release, and that is the latest release from Belgian death metal masters, Aborted. I reviewed two of their albums on this channel, Necrotic Manifesto and Retro Gore. I kind of skipped Terror Vision. I don't really know why. That album just seemed to kind of go over my head for my taste. But we are back with their album, MANIACULT. And I've already kind of gone into the history of this band in a previous review, so I'll spare you the details. Let's just talk about MANIACULT. So we kick things off with the song Verdurf, which is more of an intro song with instrumentation and vocal moments here and there. It was mostly like a horror set piece to kind of set the tone for what this album is going to sound like. So it's an intro, and it sounds like it could have been off of something like The Walking Dead, before the guitars would start kind of peeking its way into the background to kind of to emphasize that more horrific atmosphere. We get an epic riff with a great pocket beat with Sven's awesome vocals, some double bass coming in late. So overall, it was a really cool intro track to set the tone for what this album is going to be. And we immediately go into the title track, MANIACULT. Brutality unleashed immediately with some angular riffing and fast double bass. The blast beats pretty much all throughout this album are well performed and very different blast beats, and I'll point them out whenever we get to them. We get an epic yet melodic breakdown in the middle of the song to kind of give it a more dark mood. Then we get a melodic solo, and if I start to sound like a broken record as we go along, don't say I didn't warn you. But even some galloping bass lines kind of pop in this song as well. Overall, a fantastic song that explored different and unique territories within the sound. Following into Impetus Odi, super fast blast beat with some pinch harmonics to begin this beast of a song. And overall, this is definitely a more technical song, because there are parts on this track that remind me of like Decapitated in their prime, like the blast beat. There are some blast beats that kind of have more groove to it, rather than just going as fast as possible. Then there are moments that remind me of Suffocation, and even with the super fast blasting and crazy riffing, reminded me a bit of Nile. So many tempo changes, which helps create a more chaotic atmosphere. And like I said, this is definitely a more technical track with those constant tempo shifts, and the solo showcasing some technical prowess on top. Portal to I never ever get this word correct, and that's Vasudi. It's vacuity, you dumb motherfucker. Forget it. So this song starts off with almost kind of a black metal feel, because you get the more hypnotic blast beat, which is basically just the D beat just played a little bit faster, like with some epic tremolo riffing in the background before it unleashes even more chaos, like a big punch right to your jaw. We get a smooth bass line in the middle of this song, and it goes more into these horror-themed, dark ambient sounds in the background, and we get yet another melodic solo, which, again, I warned you earlier, but yeah, towards the end we get a more slightly technical solo towards the end of the track, before it transitions back to basically how the track started with those black metal elements. But now we get to one of my favorite songs of the album, maybe my favorite song, and that's Dementophobia, because this song reminded me so much of Carcass, and I'm talking about like Hard Work and Surgical Steel era Carcass, because some of the riffs that are appearing on this track definitely remind me of classic Carcass. In the middle, we get a more hardcore breakdown that kind of reminds me a bit of, say, Dying Fetus. And we get another Carcass moment with the solo, as it reminds me of something that Bill Steer probably would have done. So yeah, up to this point, probably the most melodic song of the album, and dare I say it was the most melodic song of the album, and I love it for that reason. So this was perhaps like Aborted's attempt at playing Melodeath, and I think they did it very, very well. Then we get into the middle song of the album, well, towards the end of the first half, and that's A Vulgar Quagmire. Again, more of that kind of horror-themed, dark ambient atmosphere before it gets more into some technicality, before it goes completely off the rails in the best way possible. This song is definitely more along the lines of classic Aborted, although more technical riffing shows up on this song, and even some classic, like, Discharge-inspired D-beats pop in as well. And again, the bass having another moment of shine throughout this album. Now we get into the second half, and we kick that off with the shortest song at a little over 90 minutes, Verbolgen, which was just, like I said, a little over 90 seconds. Definitely more of a way to kind of bridge the gap between the first half and the second half, but it does add a more scary atmosphere to kind of tell you more insanity is coming your way, as I'm double checking something here. But then we get into Ceremonial Ineptitude, which starts off with this more kind of hardcore intro before more melodic guitar lines start to appear in the background, and then we get some more blast beats. And again, we get some black metal in here, like the tremolo riffing in the background throughout this song kind of helps give it a more haunting quality. And I'll say this was maybe Aborted's attempt at blackened death metal, because this reminded me so much of, say, classic Behemoth. And we even get guest vocals on this song from Ryo Kinoshita from Crystal Lake doing the super low guttural vocals towards the end of the track. So this is definitely up there in my favorites of the album because of that kind of Behemoth, blackened death metal atmosphere that I really, really appreciate. Drag Me to Hell, which was actually one of the singles off of this album, one of two songs at 5 minutes long, first of two of the longest songs. More of that horror atmosphere showing up in the beginning before some wonderful guitar melodies appear to make it sound even more spooky. After that epic beginning, complete chaos ensues. The song definitely would fit in a horror movie, specifically Hellraiser. No pun intended with Drag Me to Hell. More melodic solos come in, but this one definitely has more feeling to it, rather than just showing off your chops. It definitely had more feeling on top. More guest vocals, this time from Philippe Danielson from In Reverence, showing up here as well. Grotesque, the following song, definitely, the penultimate song, definitely another more classic Aborted track. Although some of the riffs kind of reminded me a little bit of the new Evil album. It gets really thrashy at times. More melodic solos, and this time we get quite a few solos on this song. Like, we get one a minute into the track, then 2 minutes in, and Sven's vocals just goes everywhere on this track. More great bass moments. The song got technical for a moment, and it reminded me a bit of Cynic at times. And then we end off with some amazing twin lead solos to add more of a spooky flair to the song. And then we reach the final song, I Predelity, the Folly of the Gods, which was the other 5-minute song. And this one starts off with a more somber melodic intro before the remaining instruments start to gradually kick in, and then it goes full tilt brutal. More spooky tremolo riffs pop in before it starts subduing the sound down to build up, and then unleashing some gross screams from Sven, and then then it goes into full-on, like, sinister territory, kind of like classic Immolation or Incantation. It has that, like, sinister, evil vibe going on. This is definitely the most evil song of the album, and it's definitely another one up there in terms of favorites. Another wonderfully performed melodic solo before it gets chaotic again, and it ends with more of that spooky, sinister, horror, dark ambience towards the end of the track. So overall, what a roller coaster this album was musically. I mean, definitely the most melodic Aborted has ever been. Not quite melodic death metal, but kind of inching their toes closer to that territory. It still retains their brutal death metal roots, but exploring more with their sound, showcasing their influences proudly. And for my money, the experimentation definitely worked on this album, and it made for probably the best Aborted album since Necrotic Manifesto. The only knock I could really have on this album is, a couple of things. I wish Vin did more growling and less of the, almost hardcore screaming. Like, you definitely got more hardcore screaming on this album, but you still had plenty of gutturals. I just wish there was more gutturals than the hardcore screaming. Even though it's well balanced, I preferred the gutturals more than the screaming vocals. I do wish there were a bit less breakdowns on this album, and one trademark was the horror movie samples, and we didn't get any horror movie samples, but still, that's not like a huge deal for me, but it just definitely added more charm to what Aborted has always been about. So overall, man, this year just keeps pumping out some amazing albums. This is another 9 out of 10. Not quite a perfect album, because like I said, the vocals, I wish there was more gutturals, I wish the breakdowns were a little bit less, but aside from that, the melodic atmosphere that this album projects and the experimentation Aborted went through on this one definitely paid off, in my opinion. I am definitely going to purchase this one at some point soon to put into the massive collection, because this was glorious. So that was my review of MANIACULT. Sorry if I completely butchered the title of that couple of titles. It's just English class was never my strong suit in school, so there you go. But what did you guys think of MANIACULT by Aborted? Let me know in the comments below. As far as what's going to be the next review, it's going to be for the most anticipated album of the year, in my opinion, Torn Arteries by Carcass. I can't wait to get that album in the mail this weekend, listen to it, and review it for you guys. Will it be better than Surgical Steel? We'll have to wait and see. But until then, horns high, and I will see you soon.
What the heck is fellatio?
Cole, out of all the people in here, you should know what that is.
Every time I'm soft,
Yeah.
to try to have a shot.
Is it a new way to torture
Getting a
people?
little too friendly.
No!
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Okay, I'm looking it up.
Every time
Oh,
I'm
boy.
crossed.
Are you looking at the whole thing or just the
Every time I'm
fellatio part?
crossed.
Oh wait, so fellatio is stimulation of the penis? Really?
Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me do that. I might pick that card now.
Cole. It's another name for a blowjob.
Okay. Every time I...
I
Yeah,
thought it
deep-
was a dick
It's a
punishment.
deep throat blowjob.
Alright, here we go. Okay.
Moving on.
Sounds like Carson's getting one right now.
God damn.